We have these old fish traps here that have been dated at around about 6,800 years old. We've actually had them dated by maritime archaeologists who have looked at some old barnacles and things on some of the very bottom stones here from these traps, and that's how we got these dates. So lots of different fish species have been caught here over many thousands of years in a very sustainable method. These traps are built like a tidal type of weir system. So they're built to just below the high tide mark, the top rocks, and they're actually built with the bottom rocks on the bottom rocks are the smaller rocks, where the bigger rocks are on top. So they're almost built upside down. On a high tide, like we've got a bit of a high tide going on at the moment, and so this time of the day, lots of fish are being burleyed in. So we've got lots of shellfish here, so they'd be ground into a bit of a bait and thrown around the coves here, and that would bring all our fish species in. So we're talking about things like salmon, skippy, over 52 different species of fish were being caught here. So the fish would be coming into these little coves and they're eating away, and all that time the water levels are slowly dropping until it drops below the high tide mark. So these fish can't get out. Some of the bottom rocks, the smaller rocks, were removed, and that allowed all the small fish to then swim away for next year and so on as well. This is a beautiful place. It's got a really nice feel to it because lots of good things were going on here. When people that we hadn't seen from a long, for perhaps a year or so had coming down, they always knew when especially salmon were coming in here, because inland, one of our white gum tree species, which we call warrant, which is a bit like your wandoo, when that flowers, the leaves flower, that coincides with salmon and other fish species coming in here. So they always knew that yes, it's time to come down to the coast. Lots of ceremonies happening here. Everybody's happy because of all the good things that were going on here. Kalgan is a very old Menang Noongar name. One of the interpretations of Kalgan is place of first fires. And so you can only imagine all those many, many thousands of years ago when people were first coming into this country from other areas. They were following the waterways, the rivers were like biddies or trails for us. And some of the very first fires ever lit in this region were lit along the banks of the Kalgan River, which is also known to be one of the oldest waterways on the planet as well. So we have the oldest continuous meeting place on the planet, situated next to the banks of quite possibly the oldest waterway on the planet. The Kalgan, Upper Kalgan site is also a very significant place. It was a crossing point there as well. There's a little shallow spot across the Kalgan where people could cross over going from region to region. There's also a lot of evidence of occupation through this area as well. There's lots of stone artefacts and little flakes left over from when people were sitting down and napping a rock to make cutting tools and things like that with scraping tools. And we've got lots of different types of rocks here that are not local. They've been brought in from other areas as well. And other rocks have come from even further afield. As I mentioned, it was a crossing point. It was also a place where people from other regions, when they were coming through these areas, they'd have to stop and wait there and before they would be welcomed in. Our people, the Menang people, would never refuse entry unless it was something very bad. And quite often these people coming from other areas would leave a little gift there as well, whether it be a bit of rock or maybe a tool or a gift of some sort. It's been really, really special today to have all these young people out here. I've always maintained that it's not just Aboriginal culture, it's Australian culture, so it's there for all of us as well. And to pass this on, because we do have a number of young Indigenous people with us as well, it's their culture as well, and it's really important that they learn these things. So for me to pass on to the younger generations in the hope that eventually they will then also pass it on to their kids and so on as well is really, really significant.
As Australians, it's part of our culture and it's part of the history of this land, and it's incredibly important to respect and value our Indigenous people and all the history and culture that comes with that. So doing tours like this and spreading the knowledge and the history, it's really beneficial to everyone, I think. And it's something every person can share down to their children and their grandchildren, keep the history alive.